Around 300 BC, a wealthy merchant named Zeno was transporting some expensive purple dye across the sea. His ship ran into a storm and everything was destroyed. He barely escaped with his life and ended up in Athens. He was now completely broke and directionless, having gone from riches to rags overnight. Then he stumbled upon a bookshop and randomly picked up a philosophy book. He resonated so much with that book that he decided to become a philosopher. After studying with other philosophers for a while, he went on to create a new philosophy called stoicism. This philosophy was designed to help people live with more inner peace, deal with emotional and physical pain, and face the worst of life head on. It would enable people to live good lives, no matter what circumstances they were in. 400 years later, Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, would turn to Stoic philosophy when life got difficult. It was not an easy time to rule Rome. Tribes invaded in the north, and he had to lead his army to repel them. Right after that, his top general rebelled against him and started a civil war. Throughout his rule, the empire faced a horrible plague that left hundreds of thousands dead. He was physically frail and had to deal with chronic chest and stomach pains. On top of that, he had to deal with the deaths of 8 of his children. Despite all this, he did his job well and is considered one of Rome's best emperors. He was not corrupted by power. He didn't give in to the pursuit of pleasure and ignore his duties like many emperors before and after. He lived an exemplary life while carrying heavy burdens, and he did all of this by following his favorite philosophy, Stoicism. Meditations, which is now the most popular Stoic philosophy book, is a collection of notes that Marcus wrote to himself. It wasn't meant to be published for us to read. In these notes, Marcus writes about his problems, reminds himself of philosophical principles, comforts himself, and trains himself. It provides a glimpse into the mind of one of history's greatest rulers, a man who dealt with a world of problems and temptations, and somehow came out the other side unscathed, uncorrupted, and at peace. This isn't going to be a summary of all of Meditations. I just want to share the aspects of Marcus's philosophy that I found most useful. One of the most fundamental principles of Stoic philosophy is the dichotomy of control. There are things you can control, like whether or not to go to the gym today, and things you can't control, like whether it rains today. Stoics say that we should stop worrying about things we can't control and focus only on the things we can control, because worrying about things you can't control is kinda pointless. This seems simple and obvious, but pretty much everyone worries about things outside of their control. You've probably done it multiple times today already. We love to obsess over results that we don't have the power to guarantee. The Stoics considered this to be the root cause of our emotional suffering. If your happiness is dependent on something you can't control, then you're putting your emotional well-being in someone else's hands. The solution is not to stop caring about everything. You shouldn't just give up on striving for goals and results. However, you should only focus on the parts that you can actually control. If you have an important job interview coming up, then the thing you can control is studying hard and preparing. But regardless of how hard you study, you can't control what questions they ask, what they think of you, and the final decision they make. We can divide all goals into 2 categories, internal and external goals. An internal goal is one that you have complete control over, and an external goal is one that you don't have complete control over. If you set a goal to do 10 push-ups every day, then that's completely in your control. But if you set an external goal, like wanting to get a job at a company, then part of that is up to you, and the other part is up to the recruiters at that company. Whether your goal succeeds is up to someone else. We can reframe external goals into internal goals by focusing only on the parts we can control. The external goal of I need to get this job becomes the internal goal of I will do my best to prepare for the interview, but I'll accept whatever the final result is because that part isn't up to me. Once you've reframed things like this, no one can stop you from achieving your goals. Preparing well for the interview is entirely up to you, and you can be satisfied with that. Stoic philosophy doesn't encourage you to be lazy or prevent you from setting ambitious and difficult goals. But this kind of reframing will allow you to focus on the parts that you can actually control and be less attached to the final result. Another key Stoic principle is that we should separate our judgments of things from the things themselves. When we describe things that happen to us, we tend to exaggerate a bit. We say that our job is hell, or this person is the absolute worst. You might think that it's your strong emotions that cause you to say these things, but what if the language you use and the way you describe things are what cause your emotions? Hyperbolic statements evoke strong negative feelings in us. That's why it's a Stoic practice to describe events objectively, undoing the mental damage of harsh language. If someone's ship is lost at sea, we should just say the ship is lost and not add value judgments like this is the worst thing ever. When someone speeds past us on the road, we shouldn't say they're an idiot and a horrible driver and a horrible person, just that they sped past us. As Marcus's favorite Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, it's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things. Just like wearing blue-tinted sunglasses will make the world seem blue, using anxiety-inducing language will make you more anxious, and using depressing language will make you more depressed. If you stick with an objective view of what happened and don't extrapolate and blow things up in your mind, you can avoid a lot of emotional turmoil. Another foundational Stoic belief is that nature is benevolent. If something bad happens to you, like your job application gets rejected, it's not actually bad because it's what nature must have intended. Nature knows best and is working for the greater good of everything. Just like the doctor prescribes some treatment for you, nature prescribes the circumstances for you. What the doctor gives you may not always be pleasant, but you take it because you want to get better. Look at nature the same way. It gives you what you need to keep growing. If you're a religious person, you might substitute the word nature with God. Even in meditations, Marcus uses nature and the gods interchangeably. But whether you're religious or not, you can choose how you see the world. You can look at it as if everything is just random chance, or you can look at it with the belief that nature is working for the benefit of all. As humans, one of the biggest challenges we have to deal with on a daily basis is other humans. People can cause us emotional and physical pain. We need a way to maintain peace of mind even when other people are antagonizing us. Marcus made a list of 10 principles to follow when dealing with difficult people, so we can avoid letting anger control us and keep a calm mind. 1. Humans are social animals. We were designed by nature to work together and help each other. We were made for each other, and we should always remember that. 2. Consider other people's actions more holistically and be willing to empathize with them. Put yourself in other people's shoes before jumping to conclusions about why they did something. 3. Stoics believe that no one intentionally does evil. So either that person is actually doing the right thing, in which case you should accept it, or they really are doing something bad, but they're doing it out of ignorance because of some mistaken belief or misunderstanding. In that case, you should help improve their understanding, not be angry. 4. Nobody is perfect. Other people may do things that hurt us or make us angry, but we've all made mistakes. We've all done bad things at some point. You're not that different from the person you're angry with. To feel affection for people, even when they make mistakes, is uniquely human. 5. You don't know for sure that someone else is wrong. You're just jumping to conclusions. Without knowing what's going on in their mind and what their end goal is, you can't really be sure they're doing something wrong. To be angry at someone is to make assumptions about what their motives were. You get mad at someone for driving recklessly on the road and speeding past you, but if you learned that they were speeding their injured child to the hospital, you wouldn't be mad anymore. 6. You should remember that both you and the person you're angry with will be dead soon. Life is short, so is it really worth spending your time and energy getting mad about something like this? You probably aren't going to care about this thing in the future, so why get so frustrated about it now? 7. It's not other people that make us angry, but our own value judgments about what they do. This is the same thing I talked about earlier, separating our judgments of things from the actual things. When people do us wrong, they're really only harming themselves. They can physically affect you, but they can't affect your soul and virtue, which is what really matters. 8. Getting angry causes us more damage than the events that led to that anger. Responding with kindness and empathy is better for your own mental health than responding with anger. 9. Kindness is the ultimate weapon. What can the most angry and vicious person do if you keep treating them with kindness and trying to educate them instead of fighting with them? Turn your enemies into friends. 10. We should learn to accept the reality that people kinda suck sometimes. They're going to do things to make us angry, and they're going to harm us. To expect anything else is to be out of touch with reality and expect the impossible. We shouldn't be surprised when people act badly, because that's just what people do sometimes. An often neglected part of Stoic philosophy these days is social duty. Stoicism isn't just about self-improvement. It's not just about making yourself strong so you can feel good. Humans are social animals. Nature created us to work together with our fellow humans and help each other out. We should always be striving to help others because that's our duty as human beings. When Marcus was adopted into the royal family to become a future emperor, he was sad about it. As far as he was concerned, politics was corrupt and fake. He didn't want to take part in it. He'd rather just study philosophy. But he decided to go along with it and do his best, so someone bad didn't end up in charge. Stoics believe that we should work to benefit others. It may be easier to ignore the rest of the world and live happily in our own little bubble, but that's not the Stoic way. That would be abandoning our purpose as human beings. If nature wanted humans to be isolated and selfish, it wouldn't have designed us to be social animals. Death is something we all have to deal with sooner or later. So how can we come to terms with the fact that we're dying? To begin with, we should recognize that life is short and stop wasting the little time we do have. You only get one life, so stop acting like you're getting a second chance. Stop acting like you live forever. This is it. But why do we make such a big deal out of death? It's completely natural after all. The same force that allowed you to live here in the first place is the same force that takes you away in the end. So isn't it all fair? It's nothing but a process of nature. We shouldn't look down on death, but welcome it. It's something required by nature, like youth and old age, like a new set of teeth or the first gray hair, like all the other physical changes at each stage of life. When we stop an activity or finish a thought, it's a kind of death, and that doesn't harm us. Throughout your life, you will experience being a baby, a child, a teenager, an adult, and an old person. Every transformation is a kind of death. Your life is filled with many transformations, and you've made it through all of those. They weren't that bad, and your final transformation won't be that bad either. We shouldn't await death with indifference or impatience or disdain. We should simply view it as one of the things that happened to us. The idea that we should live in accordance with nature is intertwined in a lot of Stoic principles. This follows from the idea that nature is benevolent. The deeper you look into Stoic philosophy, the more you'll see this idea in everything. We should help other people because nature designed us as social animals, so helping others is in accordance with nature. We shouldn't just give in to pleasure and run away from pain and let our desires control us because we aren't wild animals. Nature gave us rationality and willpower. Nature gave us the ability to rise above the pursuit of pleasure and rise above anger. So living a virtuous life would be in accordance with nature. Nature gave us control of some things and not others, so it's in accordance with nature to worry about the things we have control over and stop worrying about everything else. Nature gives us life, and nature also gives us death. Death is in accordance with nature, and so we should accept it. Meditations has a lot to say about how we can live better lives. No matter what religious beliefs you hold, Stoicism is a philosophy that anyone can adopt. If you don't resonate with all of it, you can just take the parts that make sense to you and adopt those in your life. After all, that's how Stoicism started, by taking the best parts of other philosophies. Anyway, I've gone on for long enough already. As Marcus said, stop talking about what the good man is like and just be one.